Don and Jay were standing next to an old barrel. They were deciding on a bet. You seriously gonna do it? I mean, why not? Probably because that stuff is most likely expired by now. Jesus, just look at how moldy the barrel is. What's the worst that can happen? Me getting an upset stomach? I can take it. Plus, $50 is $50. The deal is still on, right? Ugh, whatever. And just in case your stomach melts or you die of food poisoning, I'm not responsible, yeah? Yeah, whatever. Just let me get my head wrapped around this real quick. Don took a few deep breaths and opened the top of the aged barrel filled with treacle. Okay, here I go. Get that fat wallet out and get ready to pay up. He smirked at his friend and plunged his hand into the dark, viscous liquid. Victory is now mine, he said triumphantly, but soon found himself unable to pull his hand out of the barrel. I didn't think it would be this sticky. I think I feel some lumps. Suddenly, his arm was yanked into the barrel, all the way up to his shoulder. Holy hell, help me! And there's something in here! Don shouted to his friend with a mixture of panic and confusion. Jay grabbed his friend from behind and pulled back as hard as he could, but it was like trying to move a boulder. From beneath the dark pool, multiple little syrupy goblin-like creatures rose to the surface. Unable to react at all, a dozen or so of these monsters held firmly onto Don from within the barrel. The others climbed all over him. Scared, Jay pulled himself away from Don immediately. Don's scream turned into muffled cries as one of the monsters forced his mouth open and slithered down his throat. The little creatures chuckled and sank back into the treacle. Cowering on the ground, Jay called out to Don. Hey, are you okay? Instead of responding, Don's body began jerking violently, as though he was dancing completely without rhythm. Jay could see Don's veins slowly growing darker and darker. Whatever that thing was, it was clearly doing something to his blood. Feeling hopeless, Jay ran away while apologizing profusely. Don was left behind, helpless as his body is now under complete control of a foreign entity. He was completely aware of what was happening, but unable to do anything to stop it. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation's Safe Class Object SCP-3077. SCP-3077, also known as Sugar Golem, consists of around 600 gallons of treacle, or a type of syrup to be specific. It is incredibly dark in color, viscous, and currently stored in cryogenically frozen barrels by the Foundation. If 3077 is not cryogenically frozen, the substance will become extremely active and break off into multiple copies of black sugar golems. These creatures are given the designation SCP-3077-1. 3077-1 instances typically possess orifices on the head to approximate facial features. However, the size, shape, position, and number of these orifices vary between instances. They are often deformed in some manner. Common deformities include collapsed skulls and disproportionate body parts, with nearly a third of all instances being conjoined at various points of the body. They are incredibly weak, as anyone is capable of fending off attacks from 3077-1 by simply pushing or kicking their little bodies aside without much trouble. However, their sheer numbers make up for their weakness. They are also incredibly durable. After being violently destroyed, they can reconstitute themselves easily while producing multiple new copies. They will then continue attacking relentlessly until their victim tires out. Then, 3077-1's disturbing routine begins. An instance of 3077-1 will shove its way down its victim's throat, extending dark treacle tendrils into the veins throughout the victim's head and body as it overrides the nervous system of its new host. The host is completely aware and conscious during the entire agonizing process while having no control over their body. The hosts are given the designation 3077-2. Instances of 3077-2 will then seek out humans. Once it has done so, it will begin a terrible show that consists of singing and dancing. This will continue until there is no longer any human audience present or until the host expires. After receiving an anonymous phone call indicating the presence of Herman Fuller's Circus of the Disquieting in Indiana, the Foundation dispatched MTF Kappa 14 to investigate. The task force arrived at the scene, only to find piles of dead bodies burnt to crisps. A pile of charred bodies. At a freaking circus. Christ, why can't our missions ever be remotely normal? This is why we get paid big bucks, Ramirez. Besides, with everyone dead, we can sweep the place to find our target or any survivors without much issue. Ugh. Wait a second, that body just moved. The two agents ran to a nearby tent where a woman was perched up against it. She was bound, gagged, and blindfolded. The agents quickly released her. She grabbed her head slowly and complained of a headache. She was designated as POI 3077-1. Miss, are you all right? Do you know what happened here? Lieutenant Ramirez looked back at the giant pile of bodies before turning back to the battered woman. She appeared distant and indifferent towards the commander's questions and the devastation around her. Did you do all this? You did, didn't you? I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you're gonna pay for this. The lieutenant cocked his pistol and aimed it at the woman. Commander Rice stepped in immediately to stop him. Stand down, Lieutenant. We don't do summary executions here, especially when we're not even sure if she's done anything yet. You didn't kill these people, right? The lieutenant flipped the gun's safety back on and holstered it reluctantly. Rye turned towards the woman and asked, still, the question remains, did you kill these people? Who are you and what were you doing here? POI 3077-1 calmly confessed that she worked for the circus as a magical candy maker. She had proposed an idea to her higher-ups, namely Icky the Magic Clown and Manny, the man with the upside-down face. She told them her idea of creating a bunch of little golems made of treacle. These jolly little creatures would dance and sing and entertain crowds. The idea was well received, and so resources were put into the act. She succeeded in creating the golems. But as soon as they were revealed to the crowd, they were found to be too deformed to sing or dance. A failed creation too broken to live up to their creator's divine visions. Icky then decided to have them perform acrobatics and gymnastic routines instead, since they were small and slippery. They even thought of incorporating dark slapstick humor in their performances, since the golems could be torn apart and put back together easily. Although it had strayed from her original vision, POI 3077-1 followed through. Everything progressed smoothly afterwards. Eventually, it was the opening night. The golems were rebranded and introduced as Saccharina Sweet's Sensationally Sublime Sugar Babies. The golems stepped onto the stage, spotlight on them, but they wouldn't perform. They just sat there, staring at the audience. Then all hell broke loose. They scattered into the crowd. Bearing their evil grins, they leapt into the audience's mouths and forced themselves down their throats. Within seconds, these people were being controlled from the inside like meat puppets. No, this wasn't what I had in mind. No! The creator of the golems fell to her knees, trembling in fear. The ones who broke free of the golems' clutches fled in terror. And the ones that were conquered, well, they stayed and used their newfound bodies to sing and dance for their creator, just like she had always wanted them to. Facing the chaos in front of her, Icky grew furious. In a fit of rage, she stormed towards POI 3077-1 and lifted her up by the throat, branding her a traitor. She fainted from Icky's strong grip shortly after. POI 3077-1 later woke up to a massive headache and a monsterized crowd. When they noticed their creator had risen, the golems croaked with joy and began singing and dancing for her. They seemed to be asking her, "Are you proud of us? Isn't this what you wanted us to do? Look, we're singing and dancing for you." She couldn't find her words. Her limbs felt like they were being weighted down with layers of molasses. She was frozen in fear. She could see the eyes of the people there. She could tell they wanted it to end. They wanted to die. This is hell, she thought. To be taken against your will, to be forced to sing and dance until your body breaks, to live as a puppet. The people in front of her, controlled by her very own twisted creations, sang and danced as their faces screamed agony. These are not the faces I wanted to see. Tears began rolling down her cheeks as she grew more determined. I'll burn them. I'll burn them all. And so the circus burned down along with the audience. Their screams grew as loud as the intense crackling of the raging flames until gradually dying down. What remained of the golems were locked away in some old barrels. Even now, as she stands amidst the burnt ruins of the circus, She can still hear her golem's fleeting voices asking her, "Why, Mommy, why? Are you not happy? Are you not satisfied? We sang and danced for you, Mommy. Please don't lock us away." She had since developed a fear of the smell of burnt sugar. A very distraught-looking Foundation agent walked into his commanding officer's room. He calmed himself and approached the desk. "Sir, I think you need to take a look at what our cameras captured last night." "Listen, son, I don't care if somebody stole something or slacked off. I've had men went missing ever since that damn expedition. And today, just another man is gone as well. I don't have time for trivia now, so you better make this quick. What do you want?" He shouted at the agent, who had been expecting his CO's sour mood and was not fazed in the slightest by this outburst. "If this is a trivia, it'd be a bad one that no one wants the answer to, sir." The agent handed out a flash drive. The CO took it and plugged it into his computer and pressed play. It was a recording from last night in the boiler room. On the screen, a guard was goofing off and shirking his duties, drinking in what he thought to be an area without surveillance. "That's Jacobson. He's the one that went missing this morning." The CO rolled his eyes, but then perked up and leaned forward at what happened next. The guard found something on the ground that was not meant to be there. Upon careful inspection, the CO swore under his breath when he saw a midnight black and oily-looking baby. The guard reached out to it and touched one of its fingers. It went straight to hell after that. The baby reduced itself to a large puddle of oil and quickly grasped onto the guard's arm, rendering him unable to pull away. The CO watched flabbergasted as the guard was violently pulled to the ground and partially into the puddle. Rivers of that oily substance snaked their way up to his body and began ripping and tearing at his skin. Then came the screams. He wailed in pain and attempted to use his radio, but the thing gripped his free hand, preventing him. The CO shook his head in disbelief as his skin, tendons, flesh, and organs systematically split, shredded, and presumably digested until nothing was left. Once done, it retreated somewhere into the dark of the boiler room. He paused the playback, finally feeling the gravity of the situation. He ordered the agent to block off the boiler room. Could it be? Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you a SCP Foundation Keter-class object, SCP-968. SCP-968, also known as Tar Baby, appears as black, adhesive, high-viscosity oil. The entity is made up of an absurd number of protozoa that work together to accomplish their goal, devouring their prey. The Foundation is unaware of how 986 functions, as it lacks a nervous system and an endocrine system. The cells of 986 use unique and specialized flagella that allow them to connect with other cells to enable them to greatly increase their pulling and tearing capabilities. Not only that, but they can also use them to stick to surfaces with ease. Escape is near impossible once it gets a hold of you. In order to hunt for its food, 986 will take the shape of a wounded creature and even mimic a human child to attract other humans. It is believed that it has somehow learned that members of a species will be concerned for such wounded creatures or ones that are very young. How it learned to do so is both equally disturbing and remarkable. Once it has successfully lured its prey, the prey typically will fight back, but it will only further ensnaring them within 986 due to its extreme tethering ability. After the prey has been sufficiently grappled onto, it will be dragged to a body of water to be drowned, or to a hidden den to be consumed. The victim is then ripped to shreds on a microscopic level as they are slowly consumed. Attempts to freeze 968 for analysis have proven extremely hazardous. It conducts heat through friction and metabolism, keeping parts of itself from freezing. It uses its frozen parts as structures for its tendrils to act against, much like muscle on a bone. It is advised not to continue freezing attempts, as 968 may learn to use the bone structure of its prey to escape or attack Foundation personnel. The following is an entry, a report by a member of MTF Epsilon 9, which was dispatched to contain 968. Log entry 5. Name, Sergeant John Hawk of MTF Epsilon 9. Status, alive. Last remaining member of Task Force Epsilon 9. The task was simple: go to Africa and to contain a pool of viscous liquid that had been terrorizing local villagers. We were dispatched after an idiotic reporter published a video of an old man being dragged screaming into a large pool of water. The poor bastard didn't stand a chance. After all, when a gigantic snake-looking thing from hell wraps itself around someone, only a moron would run to help. Anyhow, more and more villagers vanished after getting spirited away by a shadow creature. But after that acquisition mission, I can confidently say that it's anything but a shadow. That mission, damn it, the mission should have gone well. We got enough firepower to bring down a small nation, and data on the thing for a quick and easy capture. We then started searching for it as we knew what it was capable of. The mood was tense, to say the least, as we moved through the savannah looking for any traces of oil. Funny, a bunch of Americans on foreign soil looking for oil, except that it's not the kind that brings fortune and wealth, but only death and dirt. The locals didn't like our interference regardless, oil or not. The 8 of us decided to split into pairs and find the children, as the thing was most likely trying to ensnare them. Me and Colt, the captain, headed north. And that was when our little safari trip descended to hell. Soon enough, we saw those things, demons. Dozens of infants located at random spots. Aside from their slick, black, oily surfaces, they looked real. Too real. I was behind him when we were approaching it. He stopped suddenly as he was trapped in something like a web created from that creature's body. It quickly began to cover his body and pull him into different directions. He begged me to do something, so I aimed my flamethrower at him. "Anything but that," he shouted. "Listen to your captain's orders," they say, but I shouldn't have. I should have just used it then and there. Instead, like a fool, I fired my pistol at it, which was about as effective as throwing stones at a burning building. It did absolutely nothing. The next thing I knew, Colt was flayed alive. From then on, I never hesitated using my flamethrower every other second. Damn thing had fine web-like threads attached to animals and holes and whatnot. Over 2 miles. 2 miles. One by one, my men dropped like flies, either by getting ambushed and snared like Colt was with no one around to burn it, or were pulled by their feet and taken to God knows where to get digested. Every time we blasted pieces of it, it retreated in the same direction, no doubt to where the main body was. Then it was just me and So. The 2 of us regrouped, and we had cornered the thing to a large tree. She was carrying a vacuum-sealed containment unit. Not only did I have to protect her through this whole damn situation, I had to get that thing onto the unit without killing her. I was successful in one of those endeavors. I unleashed hellfire all over that thing while So was at the ready opposite of me. That sludge leaped from the tree towards So with me trailing behind. She had the unit on the ground, open, and had a flamethrower ready as well. Together, we used our flames to corner it towards the container, but out of nowhere, it lashed out a tendril at So. It got her face. I burned the thing as best as I could to get it off of her, but it was like it knew what I was doing. It went into the containment, dragging So along with it. I learned too late that it had infiltrated her body and digested her insides. Poor girl ended up as its final snack before I sealed the unit shut. She wasn't moving when I shut it. I emerged from the forest, covered in soot, entrails, and whatever my pickup crew was telling me. I was told I was successful. It doesn't feel like it. On the way back, the pilot was talking about his previous trip to Africa and how much he had learned to appreciate life since then after seeing the slums and villages. Me, caked in African mud and dirt and blood of my own teammates, only wished to burn the damn thing in the cage. We bring back a piece of this Tar Baby and it'll take away the entire base. I can still hear their screams. Colt, So, everyone. You hear that in every movie, so you think it's cliche. But nothing is a cliche when it's happening to you. I'm sorry. End log. Everyone in the crew noticed a shift as soon as we entered the cave. I didn't like it. Made my second in command feel uneasy too. We entered the inner caverns through a river of some sort. It was wide enough for the ship to pass through. It led us out to this first island and into a wider space. Further out, it looked like a full-sized ocean. Mickey said he could see at least 3 other islands right away, and more of those lights in the distance. I made the call to stop and dock where we were. We slept in shifts to keep on lookout, and I was always the one who had to stay up at the deepest hour of the night. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us in the dark, like something terrible was about to come out from the sea. It was pretty much uneventful for the first couple of nights, but on the third, my suspicions were proven right. A dozen of these fishies, we called them, ransacked our camp. Some of them even came from the water. They caught us off guard, but strangely enough, they didn't kill us. They broke my comrades' arms and legs to prevent struggling, then dragged them into the sea. I lost many friends that night. Some of them were begging me to do something to help them, but I couldn't do anything. The pistols did nothing to them, but I tried anyway in desperation. Even though I hit them square in the chest, they didn't even flinch. They just kept on dragging and dragging and dragging. They tore through most of the camp until we brought in heavier weapons to bear. We still weren't sure how many men we'd lost. Baron told me they tried to capture rather than kill. He saw them dragging people down into the water. I couldn't even begin to imagine what they wanted to do with the poor bastards. Hello everybody, I'm TheRubber. Today we bring you SCP Foundation Euclid Class Object SCP-3229. SCP-3229, also known as A Blessed Sea, is a spatial anomaly located within a cave system around the southwest coast of Svalbard. The cave itself is situated on an islet approximately 18 square meters. Within the cave is an archipelago of 312 islands of varying sizes. This space is not reachable by any means other than the cave entrance, and as such appears to exist on another plane of reality. The archipelago within 3229 is observed to have been inhabited by a pre-industrial civilization which is spread across the entirety of 3229. Currently, 3229 is inhabited by a number of undiscovered aquatic and amphibious life forms, with the most common entity hostile to Foundation personnel being SCP-3229-A. 3229-A are humanoid amphibious hybrids that are the primary hostile inhabitants of 3229. While some degree of variation exists between instances of SCP-3229-A, all entities exhibit a collection of common traits, including discolored blue-gray skin, coral-like growths around the cranium, as well as protruding from near the shoulder blades, large dorsal fins, glassy eyes, and numerous visible SCP-3229-B instances moving beneath the skin. SCP-3229-B are parasitic life forms responsible for the creation of 3229-A instances. They are worm-like organisms of varying length, commonly 2 to 4 inches in diameter. The entities enter hosts via any available orifice, with the mouth and eyes being the most common. SCP-3229-B have also been observed entering through artificial orifices on victims, such as gunshot wounds or injuries caused by 3229-A. This form of implantation is less common, as 3229-B gravitate towards able-bodied hosts. This is hypothesized to be due to the relationship between SCP-3229-B and SCP-3229-O. SCP-3229-O is an unidentified aquatic organism of unknown size and origin. Recovered sources refer to it as a significant figure within the pantheon of the archipelago's original civilization. It is known to be responsible for the creation of 3229-B and, by proxy, 3229-A. Recovered sources also state that only one 3229-O instance remains, with the rest of the pantheon now extinct. An experiment was carried out to study the infection process. Alright, subject D3231145. Please step into the chamber. Dr. Isego then looked towards Psych Director Yu, who gave him a firm nod. Alright, the chamber is sealed. Now, introduce SCP-3229-B into the chamber. A door on the side of the chamber slid open, and out poured the parasites. They swarmed all over the D-Class in no time, and began invading his orifices. No, No, not the worms, not the worms. My eyes, my eyes! Ah! His scream was cut short as the parasites dislocated his jaw. They could hear the sound of bones popping. Subject D3231145 is hereby designated as a host, SCP-3229 A. Damn, not only do they take over your body, but they also do it in the most painful way possible. Wait, Doctor, that's not all. Look! A few minutes later, coral-like protrusions breached 3229 A's skin. Its face became disfigured due to its contorted bone structure. My goodness, look at that monstrosity! The host had completed its skeletal restructuring. A dorsal fin was now visible, and its lower limbs have become double-jointed. Its skin became taut, revealing more of its deformed skeletal structure as well as 3229-B instances wriggling underneath. All right, this has gone on long enough. Send in the squad. Wait, what's it doing? 3229-A turned towards the observation mirror. As if it was able to see through the one-way glass, it stared down Dr. Isego and began to move towards him. Oh my God, it's coming towards us. Wait, where are you going, Director? The security team entered the chamber and attempted to immobilize 3229-A using fast-acting tranquilizer darts. The darts hit its body and injected the fluid. 3229-A lost its strength for a moment as it dropped to its knees, but it didn't last long. Subject has been incapacitated. Wait, what? 3229-A got back on its feet and grunted furiously. It charged towards the security team and sent them flying across the room. One of them managed to dodge its attack and pulled out his sidearm to fire at it. Although the bullets seemed to have dealt some damage, 3229-A simply shrugged it off and grabbed him by the throat. Then, with its newfound strength, it hurled him through the observation glass. The body crashed against Dr. Isego and pinned him onto the floor. Code Red, I repeat, Code Red. We have an anomaly breaching containment on site. 3229-A grabbed the assistant's arm and broke it with one violent twist. Why the hell are you guys standing around like idiots? Help me up, or kill this thing. Do something! But the staff were frozen in fear. 3229-A went on a rampage, and Dr. Isego could only watch helplessly as his colleagues were being slaughtered. Soon enough, MTF Gamma 6 promptly terminated 3229-A with high-caliber rounds. The team leader, Agent Devereaux, pushed the body off and helped Dr. Isego to his feet. I cannot thank you enough for saving my life. God, all this carnage, just from one single entity. Hard to imagine that thing used to be a human being. You ain't seen nothing yet. These are nothing next to something even greater. You mean 3229-O? Agent Devereaux nodded. He put his rifle aside and lit a cigarette. I was with the stealth sub SCPF Thurston when the entity made contact. It worked fine for dodging the fishies. I can't remember the exact depth, but we were really, really deep. We passed several submerged ruins that we were translating and cataloging, and we found a lot of intel on the -O, like how the parasites are being used to turn people into fishies so they could be closer to their god. The fishies are worshippers. They probably received some kind of command from the -O. We were maybe a tenth of the way through the ruins when the hull hit something and were forced to stop. It turned out to be a fishy, but it's not one of the usual ones. That one had this weird robe on. We couldn't tell if it was clothing or part of his body. We sent a couple of guys down into the airlock to take it out, but it just swam right in, calm as anything. Didn't even seem to notice the guys. It was mumbling something in its own language. Then suddenly, it became agitated. Not necessarily hostile, but the chants were getting louder and sounded more aggressive. Rather, it sounded like it was panicking and scared. And that's when the thing hit us, the -O. Whole sub rocked to one side. Massive tentacles punctured through the sub and grabbed them. It was chaos all around. I couldn't get a good look at it, but you could tell that thing was huge. We fired 2 torpedoes, made the thing bleed, but it didn't even seem fazed. Not only did it get angrier, the damn thing's body morphed and contorted to repair the damage, grew some new body parts as well. Not only was it crushing the sub, it's making the men go insane with some crazy cognitohazards or something. Our men started to babble like the fishy we picked up. One of the lieutenants was clawing his eyes out, kept saying he could feel something slithering behind them. Some divers went out with the fishy in hopes to divert its attention. It worked. Or maybe it didn't even care about the sub to begin with. Whatever it was, something made it lose interest in the sub. That gave us the opportunity to run. Then came another thud as the thing hit us, but the divers did something to distract it. They never made it back. If the entity were to become hostile, do you think we could stop it? Agent Devereaux couldn't answer it, but to Dr. Isego, his silence was already the answer.